Yeah, everybody's here, huh? All right. Ladies and gentlemen. What the?
Who's this agenda together? Roll call.
Yeah, I guess. Joey's running late, right?
How do you do it so that it comes up on the left?
Joey's running late.
There's a setting that you put in Adobe.
Joey's running late.
If you want to do that.
Yeah.
When you open up, it automatically defaults.
Did you save it? I think you always done the same way. You got it? Yeah.
Yeah, about 30 seconds or what? Well, we have 6.
Do that in Acrobat when you're.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Good afternoon to everybody. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is October the 3rd of 2019. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Villarreal,
Present.
Jose Tellez, Carlos Flores,
Present.
George Beckelheimer,
Present.
Raul Ugalde,
Present.
Johnny Narvaez,
Present.
Abraham Lugo, present, Jose Luis Villarreal,
Present.
Dominguez.
Present.
For the record, Mr. Chairman, you do have quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Tellez just texted me that he's running a little bit late. If we could excuse him. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item that we have is the consideration and approval of minutes of September 12th and September the 19th. We have them.
No, we just have one for the 12th.
We only had a meeting of the 12th, is that correct?
That's correct. We only have for the 12th, not for the 19th.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Next item that we have is a preliminary consideration of the replat of Lot 7, Block 2, Las Lomas Industrial Park, Phase 2 into Lot 7A, 7B, 7C, 7D, Block 2, Las Lomas Industrial Park, Phase 2. The intent is industrial. The proposed action is approved, subject to the following comments from the Planning Department, from Engineering, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Edward Gatz. I'm here on behalf of the developer. I just wanted to kind of just give you a little background and location, just to give you a better perspective. This is an existing plat my client has purchased, located off of Highway 59, east of the landfill site of the current City of Laredo landfill, and they're planning to just subdivide one lot into 4 lots. It's a pretty large lot that was platted several years back. And we're in the preliminary plat phase right now. We have reviewed the comments. We've already also have had some discussion with our city traffic director regarding the comment and the plan. There's also a planning comment regarding shared access. We are in agreement to it. We will have to be removing an existing driveway as a part of this plat, and we've spoken to our clients and they're in agreement to that. So this will be our basis for design for driveways for shared access at this location.
This is industrial?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna have shared access on industrial?
Yes, sir. Well, to comply with the driveway spacing requirements and we've already discussed that with our client, and they're in agreement.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, just for my own bearings, is this an existing subdivision that's there right now?
Yes,
It's got several businesses there right next to it?
There's one in the front. I think that Holt.
Holt?
Yes, sir. The Holt is in the frontage. That's the primary use there right now in that area.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right,
So we do agree with staff comments.
okay. Any questions for Mr. Garza from the commission? All right, if not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I move to approve, subject to the following comments.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries, thank you. Next item that we have is preliminary consideration of the replat of lots 4, 5, and 6, block 1087, Eastern Division, situated in the city of Laredo, as per the original map of the city recorded in volume 5, page 1, Webb County Map Records, and 23.15 feet of unplatted portion west of Lot 4, Block 1087 into Lot 6A, Block 1087, Eastern Division. The intent is commercial. The site is a .738 acre tract and it is located south of Guadalupe Street and north of Chihuahua Street and west of North Urban. The zoning for this one lot development is B3 and the tract is located in District 3. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from traffic, and notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Before you go on, just give me a second. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Reyes has just joined us.
I apologize for being late. Had a full.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Frank Stein with Sherman Engineering. We concur with staff comments.
Okay. Whereabouts, let me ask you a question. I was just trying to figure out exactly where this property is.
It's in between Guadalupe and Chihuahua, where the car wash, the existing car wash is, there where the barbecue
Oh, okay, I
restaurant
know
is,
where it
right
is.
there. That's the lot that's being replatted.
Is it the lot that's got the car wash on it?
It is. Absolutely. That whole area where the car wash is sitting, that's the part that's being
Okay.
replatted.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the engineer?
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is to combine it all into one parcel?
That is correct. There is, I guess, recently the client is in the process of probably doing some reconfiguring in that for the actual car wash, our client. And with what we're doing with planning now is we're having to combine, in order to apply for a building permit, we need to exist on one lot if it's platted.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I move to approve item 6B with the attached comments.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries, thank you. Next item that we have is a preliminary consideration of the international plat. The intent is commercial. This is a 1.31 acre tract and is located north of International Boulevard and east of Springfield Avenue. The zoning for this one lot development is B3. The tract is in District 6. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, and a notice to developer. Guerra Engineering? Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the staff? Since this is a preliminary plat? No? And then what are the wishes of the commission?
I move that we approve item 6C with the attached comments.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Motion carries. The next item is a preliminary consideration of the plat of AEP Dust Devil subdivision. The intent is 138K volt electrical substation. This is it's 5 acre tract located east of Kirby Drive and south of Shiloh. The zoning for this one lot development is AG. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from engineering, from environmental, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is John Witt. I represent CDS Murray. Right now, we're working with AEP on this project, and the intention is to turn this into a 138 kilovolt substation, as you guys were discussing. We're fine with comments?
You're fine with the comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the engineer? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
I move to approve, subject to the following comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next item that we have is preliminary reconsideration of the plat of San Isidro North, East La Paz subdivision. The intent is residential. This is a 43.05 acre tract located north of Juan Escutina Boulevard and east of International Boulevard. The zoning for this 141 lot development is R1. Proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from fire, from water utilities, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir?
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Carlos Menendez. I'm here on behalf of the engineer. We agree with the comments.
Okay. I have some questions for you.
Yes, sir.
I've noticed that a lot of there's no topography map on this. You guys didn't send us a topography, so it's really hard for us to figure out. You're draining a lot of your lots to the rear lot. You're using a lot of utility easements for drainage. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What is your elevations from front to back on an average?
I would have to get back to you. I'll need to talk to the engineer and see what he tells me.
Okay, so you can't help us.
Oh, sorry about that.
So you don't know, my other question was gonna be, there's a lot 28. Is that an unbuildable lot, and that's on block,
7, I believe.
it's not on your block, on your lots that are labeled on the plat either. So I don't know if it's an unbuildable lot, because the unbuildable word is in a drainage easement.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm gonna make an assumption that it is referring to lot 28, and you know what they say about assumptions. So can you tell me?
No, sir. I'm sorry.
I wanted to add that unbuildable lot that's identified there, it's actually a gas line that's running through there.
No, I saw the easement. There's a 40-foot easement.
Yes.
Right next to the 40-foot easement, there's a lot 28. Okay, and there's an unbuildable label on that, if you see that. And I'm gonna make the assumption that he's talking about, that's why I wanted clarity on that. Is that lot 28 that we're talking about?
It is. That's the one that's crossing the gas line in the middle. Between lot.
Yes, it goes right by it. It goes right by it. So it is, the lot is an unbuildable lot? Is that what you're telling us?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Because of its size?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then you can't tell us much about the drainage?
No, sir. That would be the engineer. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, this is preliminary, but there is a lot of rear lot drainage, and it's going to, and let me ask staff a question then real quick. We now allow rear, or drainage can go into utility easements, is that correct?
I do not have that answer for you this time.
Okay, that was just, it might have changed since I'm gone I've been out 6 years, but I know in the past we were very cautious about trying to separate them as much as possible, but question, this is preliminary, it's just a question on my part, because a lot of your stuff is draining into utility easements. And it's coming back out, but it's all labeled utility easements. I guess the other question that I have for you now, based on, I think there's only one lot that I saw right there, lot 12, that's I believe off of block 1, has been made into like a drainage easement, but it's classified as a lot.
Yes.
Are you proposing any kind of, is that going to be an earthen channel, or is that a concrete line channel, or what is that? What are y'all proposing there?
I'm not sure what the client wants on that, but I really have to get back with you.
Okay, well, those are just things that I guess y'all can, okay. Does anybody else from the commission have any?
If I may,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman. I noticed on lot number, let me open it up, bear with me.
Is it real hard to see? Seems like you need to go to like 200 to just see things here.
Bear with me. The setbacks on lot number, I'm trying to get it here, just bear with me a little bit. It will be lot number, block number 7, lot number 8. I noticed that the setbacks for the construction, they're calling for probably about 30 feet. I can't really tell what's the setback there. Is there a special reason why, and if this will be noted on the plat, because whoever buys that property needs to know that the reason why the building setback is so so extends on the back, so big.
Towards the back?
And it's,
Oh, okay.
and it seems that that's where the water is gonna flow.
Crazy
And,
cul-de-sac here.
and I don't have a problem, Mr. Chairman, with the preliminary, but I think it will be very useful if we can get a topography of the
topography
area,
is-
because
yeah, I
then
agree.
how, if they're telling us that they're gonna have some drainage into other lots,
Yeah, across,
so what's the,
They're gonna be draining that with, there's an intention on the
oh, yeah, but it depends. Okay. Did you work on this plan, or did somebody else work on it?
I designed it according to the engineer. But,
You designed it, but you don't
Yeah,
have
like-
all the technical information.
Well, no, I mean, he told me today that he was gonna be in town, so he told me to cover him for him.
Okay. Well, since you designed it, then in the same area, Block 7, you have is that a cul-de-sac you have on lots 10, 11, and 12?
Yes,
Is there a reason why, I mean, is that your topography issue there, or what is the problem there, or what? On that,
I'm not sure, sir. I only draw it, it's not really like my engineering skills or whatever.
well, I'm gonna make a recommendation that you take back to your engineer, that we really need to have an engineer who can answer some of these questions for the commission. I mean, the commission members here right now, I mean, we may just be in agreement to table this. There seems to be a lot of issues here that you can't give us answers to.
My guess would be for that
But-
cul-de-sac,
Just,
that it was that it would have been an access issue if they brought the lots all the way down to a, with the road without a half circle there, it would have probably been like 10 feet of access, so that you could.
And again, without the engineer being here, we're all making assumptions. Yeah, okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You know, as I'm still learning about this, so the preliminary is just that preliminary.
It is preliminary, they still have to come back to staff with, better plans.
So I'm just throwing this out here. I respect everything that you said, because these things I don't know about yet. But you all have taken note of that, Mr. Schneidman, the concerns that the chairman and Mr. Dominguez brought up?
We have.
So we can have those explained when it comes back at the second phase to your all satisfaction, okay? And then that way we can get clarification. I'm just,
Yes, and the commission can add conditions as well, in addition to the ones that are listed.
well, this is the
If you
these are
feel
the conditions
a
that,
topography map would be warranted, that they would be required.
Yeah, because, I mean, and the other thing is, and I don't remember, I might have been in there, but when you're draining to the rear, are you all, well, you're probably not going to be able to answer it, but I imagine your engineer, based on your cues of the water coming off of each lot, is going to design, if there's fences in the back that are going to be built, the size of the openings that are required to be able to drain this thing, each lot?
Yeah, it should.
I mean, because those are critical. I mean, we've seen these problems, I've seen them personally all over the city on rear lot drainage. People put up fences, all of a sudden they call, my backyard's flooded.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, So that was something that, we need to make sure that when you get the final plans and the engineers review this, that we are very, I guess, proactive as to where and how big the drainage holes have to be on those particular, most of them are either CMUs or they're gonna be block fences, whatever they are. If they are, or even if they're wood, whatever. But those are gonna be critical too, because there's a lot of rear lot drainage, and you start making fill, and then your lot lines are gonna have water going from lot line to lot line and over one lot. So there's a lot of things there that really need a lot of, and I know that the comment is on there that you cannot alter the finished grades, which is an excellent comment, because you really can't, once you get a final plat. But I've seen it done in the past. So it's just a matter of enforcement. That's what it is. Yes, sir.
Can we add a comment to the planning notes, add a fifth comment saying that they got to bring it back? We'll approve it temporarily, subject to them adding the
We can do that.
topography, and bring it back so that
We can
either
see
at
it.
the next meeting with.
Yep.
with you
Or
guys,
whenever they're ready.
With the
Topography and,
with the engineer.
Yeah.
To answer any and all questions.
Yeah.
But that way they don't get.
yeah, we don't
delayed.
slow down. Yes, sir.
one of the, they have some notes on the plat, Mr. Chairman, where they're asking for any of the fences that they they have enough space to get the flow of the water to move from one lot to the other.
Right.
So they're actually giving that, but also they're telling that they can change the elevations. So I think if they will not be able to change the elevation and they have not calculated the water flow, then they need to work on the height of the finished floor of the slab.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of being 8 inches, it should be 12 inches.
Well, and see, that's hard for us to say because since we don't have an elevation map that overlays this one, it's gonna be very hard for us to determine. That was the first thing that came to my mind. When you're gonna build a house, what is the elevation that we got? Are we gonna have fill in certain size, and what is gonna be the height of the actual pad? Those are things that came to my mind also. So, yeah.
In all fairness, I think the gentleman here was not prepared for this, so I would probably make a motion to approve it and get somebody that can actually give us more information. That way we will not stop the plat from moving on.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If it's all right, I would like to ask our planning expert here to share with you how you have concerns about the topography and about the drainage, where that's typically addressed in this process.
Those issues will get addressed after the preliminary, because they have to, again, meet with engineering, traffic, and then to make sure that they get all the sign-offs and all those plans, that they meet all the requirements.
But that's not typically something that is reviewed in the preliminary stage. It's reviewed at the final.
At the final
So
plat.
you wouldn't normally see it here. You would see it at the final.
But
So it's not something that was missed, it's something that's reviewed as a different.
No, I know that. It's just some things that we're bringing up right now. I'm bringing them up because
Right.
there's a lot of rear lot drainage, okay? And I want to make sure that we don't miss those things.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm bringing up these questions. That's why a lot of us are bringing up these questions. We have a commissioner who just made a motion right now, and
Well, I
wanna-
made a suggestion, like if we
As
can
an additional
kind of
plat
approve
note,
it with a comment that they bring it
because,
back.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Those are very valid concerns.
There are valid concerns, but they will be reviewed at the proper time. It's not part of the preliminary review process to review it now. Now, you've highlighted it, although it's something we would typically, highlighting it, puts a magnifying glass on, that's good for us to know. I don't think you need to include an additional motion, anything additional.
well, we're
Just that your
gonna,
concerns have been noted, and that when it gets to the appropriate review process as part of the final, then we'll really make sure that they're doing the right job with the,
yeah, well, we need to see that in the final plat notes, that all these concerns that we've talked about have been addressed. Because usually by the time we get the final, all we get is the final plat. You've already done your work on it and stuff. We don't get topographies, we don't get nothing, so it's just a matter of it's done, it complied, and goes through. But I think we would like to see,
Can I make a motion?
yes, sir?
I'd like to make a motion to approve subject to the following comments with an additional planning note number 5, I moved on.
Okay.
That they bring this back to us, either the next meeting or as soon as possible, with the topography, with the items we've requested, and with the engineer who can answer the questions, because we'd like to see it before it gets further along the process.
then if I might suggest that,
Without tabling it and delaying they can still go forward. They're so early on in the process, they can still go forward with stuff, but we still want to be able to look at it and have the concerns answered.
Second, Joe.
Got a motion?
I have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So then we have a motion to come back. It is to go forward, but come back. All right. Y'all get that motion, Fernando, understand it?
yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right, the next item we have is preliminary reconsideration of the plat of ND Achada Industrial Park Phase 2. The intent is industrial. This is a 135.91 acre tract located south of Beltway Park and west of Interstate 35. The zoning for this 15 lot development is M1. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from the planning department, from the engineering department, from the environmental, from utility, water and utilities, and then notice to developer from planning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Wayne Nance, Boris Engineering.
Good afternoon.
We agree with all these comments. I was surprised to see identified floodway, but after speaking with the environmental department, he determined that I think it's more along the lines of floodplain, and we'll be working out with the floodplain administrator during the one-stop shop process.
Okay.
So we agree with the comments. Thank you.
Any questions for the engineer from the commission? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Director Danny McGee. I'm the new Traffic City Director. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr.
I did want to bring up a topic that it's kind of a recurring thing. I think we're kind of, in some ways, doing this backwards. There's plat note number 7. Talks about that it'll be subject to access from the Texas Department of Transportation. I no longer work there, but it does cause situations where we approve a plat that doesn't have enough room for possible acceleration lanes, and there's a very bad grade coming out of that. I think that needs to be worked out before we even proceed with the preliminary plat, because it could affect the way that it's installed there. If the TxDOT doesn't have a requirement for that, then it's fine. But being there previously, I know that there would be some concern for that.
Okay.
And it really is a comment for all these types of plats, that there's a note there, but once you approve a plat and then you take that plat to TxDOT, it kind of hems things in because it's already, so either you tell the applicant go back and replat it, or we work with what we got. So I think that needs to be worked out beforehand.
Let me ask Mr. Nance. Have you gone before TxDOT to show what you're proposing yet, or not?
Absolutely. We actually have 2 curb cuts already approved, and
Okay.
so this has been addressed.
So you, okay. I
believe
just,
it.
I didn't
I
want to
believe it.
blindside anybody. I mean, it was a very good comment by Mr. McGee, but certainly the last thing we want to do is blindside you.
Yes, sir. We understand that.
Okay.
Very important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Move to approve item 7B with the attached comments.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next item we have is preliminary and final consideration of Bulldog Boulevard and Mayela Drive right-of-way. Dedication plat, the intent is city right-of-way. This is a 3.45 acre tract located south of Delmar Boulevard and west of Bob Bullock Loop. And the proposed action is approval. Approval, notice to developer. What does that mean?
There are approvals already?
This one is coming in for preliminary and final, so they've met all the hurdles.
It's going to final, yeah, okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Jeff Quigg, representing the United Independent School District on this reconsideration preliminary and final plat. We look forward to a favorable acceptance of the plat. Move forward.
All right. Now, let me ask you this, is this plat on school property?
Yes, sir.
All on school property?
It's a partnership of the ownership with the Alexanders on the property.
And everybody's in concurrence with this?
Yes, sir.
All owners?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Any questions from the commission? Mr. Puig? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of the commission?
A motion approved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. The next item is the final consideration of the plat of Lomas del Sur subdivision, Unit 9. The intent is residential. It's a 10.24 acre tract located south of Wormser Road, east of Cuatro Vientos Road, and north of Lomas del Sur Boulevard. The zoning for this is 67 lot development is R1A. The proposed action is approval. Any questions from the commission on this plat?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item that we have is the final consideration of the plat of Los Presidentes East subdivision, Phase 1. This is a 19.57 acre tract located east of Cuatro Vientos Road and south of Tabasco Drive. Proposed action is approval with a notice to developer. What is this? Coordinate the street naming with the planning department staff to ensure that there are no similar sounding or similar spelled names. Well, wait a minute, this is a final plat.
That is correct.
So has this been ironed out?
That is one issue that just needs to be ironed out. That was a comment that we had previously, and we just need to meet with the engineer to make sure.
Howland Engineering, Rick?
You know that Jalapa is spelled both ways in Mexico, that way.
Right. The thing is that we already have that street nearby, so.
I know.
Good evening, Ricardo Villarreal, Howland Engineering, representing the client, here to answer any questions.
Did you change the name?
The comment that is there, tell me, are you okay with that, or? I mean, it's a final plat, so it's like, okay, do we have, final plat, you gotta have, we should have already deciphered that.
Yeah.
We just can't go and say, okay, let's decipher it now. It's gotta be deciphered before you go to final.
I mean, we can, they don't get registered anyway till the plat gets recorded. If need be, we can change the name. It's not anything
Well,
that's
yeah, but
gonna
I
be
mean,
detrimental.
normally by the
to-
time it gets here and you get final
But-
approval, everything is given final approval here, not after the fact.
But I know there's been instances where we've had to change names.
Well, let's talk about this right now, because I don't know what street you're talking about.
So there's another street, Jalapa, and I can see the confusion now. There's another street, Jalapa, just north of this.
Yes.
It's spelled with a J.
What
It's
we're
in-
suggesting is that they not use that name, they can use another name.
Okay,
That's what we're saying. So if you approve this final plat with that planning note, then they'll have to change Jalapa.
Like Von Miller, something like that?
Can they use Palapa, or is that too similar sounding?
Well, that's
That's for them to decide.
That's up to him.
Jalapa would be okay.
We'll definitely use a name that hasn't been registered with the city of Laredo.
yeah.
And we can understand the confusion, so we concur with the comment to find a name that's appropriate.
We're joking a little bit, but it's actually very serious. When you talk
It
about
is.
Emergency response.
That's exactly what I was gonna tell you.
It is very important that we don't have confusion with our streets. So
Right.
jokes aside, we will not accept, it's not acceptable for us to have a name that could be confusing.
No, I agree. I mean, that's contrary to 911.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Steinman, we're all in agreement about that. Nobody wants to confuse anybody.
I think what
We're
we'd
just
like to
saying
do
this
is
yeah,
get a name on the street now, before we approve it.
I make a suggestion.
I don't know if the street, you made a suggestion of Palapa?
I mean, we can, in all honesty, I think at this point, the name of the street is a moot point for my client, other than the fact, I don't know if we have the database here to
No, we
figure
don't.
out if.
But we can change the name prior to recordation.
Yeah,
We can
I
have
mean,
it
we can,
changed.
I don't mind a comment being put on there that the name will change prior to recordation with an allowable name that hasn't been used by the city of Laredo.
Okay, I think,
We went through, and I know we went through numerous times, what we usually do is send the names to planning to kind of get an agreement. I think when we input this name on there with an X, it doesn't come out. But it was just a miscommunication that there's another name that sounds exactly the same way, just spelled differently. It's one of those words.
If I can.
Yes, sir.
A comment. I will make a motion to approve, and this will serve that finals are finals. So next time that we need to have a name there, just make sure that we have the name changed and not a note there.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Motion carries. Next item is final consideration of plat of Hidden Heaven subdivision. The intent is residential. Proposed action is approval. Does anybody have any questions on this? This is a 5.65 acre tract located south of Shiloh Drive and adjacent to Shenandoah Valley subdivision. This is a 19 lot development and is zoned R1.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, I can make a motion to approve 9C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Next item that we have is the final consideration of utility trailer plat. The intent is industrial. This is a 10.5 acre tract located north of Muller Boulevard and west of FM 1472. This is a one lot development and is zoned M1. The proposed action is approval. I do have a witness card, Mr. Memo Castro, who would like to speak to this item.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the record, my name is Memo Castro. I am a homeowner at La Bota residence. Homeowners Voices United. And we have come here before you, gentlemen, to address our concerns, and you have addressed them well. We have met with the City Councilman George Algett, Mr. Kirby here, the last time that we met, and we were talking about land swaps and stuff like that. It bears no fruit. The district itself, and I have it from Superintendent Bobby Santos, that we're against it. A couple of weeks ago, there was a chemical spill, and you have to look at the fact that it's the children's that we're looking at, and we're looking at those kids. I don't have kids there, but you know what? I consider them my kids, and it's the only school surrounded in the United Independent School District that allows this. We can't have this. We were told by George, and I don't know some of your staff people, that this was not going to be the final reading, that was going to be approved at City Council. We were lied to or misled. That's why you don't see a sea of movie brew here like we had last time. So, in the essence of also, when we were looking at the final readings, there's no talking about a fence, a burn, a detention pond. You know, this is an injustice. And you know, we all talk about moving Laredo forward. I ask you board members to stand today with us and deny them. Let's move Laredo forward by doing the right thing. And the right thing is that I'm not against business. I'm all for it, but let's do it the proper way. You got us to understand the lives of those children. I want you guys to just think about it. Kids playing out there. Close your eyes and see these children playing out there. A truck or a chemical comes out, and those kids that are dying, grasping for air, and then open up your eyes and it could be your children, your grandchildren. This is what is at stake here. You guys have the power, and I plead with you to deny them or table it until we get a better address of this issue. I thank you.
Let me ask you a quick question, Mr. Castro. I think the last time that you all were here, if I remember correctly, you were going to all meet with the owner and stuff like that to see if you could all come to some kind of an agreement. Did that ever take place?
Yes, we did. Mr. Gomez and also Mr. Ken, because there's another property that we're also fighting. We met, and they all came with some concerns. And at one time, I think they also came with a condition that they were going to try to see if we can get a middle ground, that they were going to introduce an ordinance around the area of the school and around La Bota that no hazmat material would be allowed. And I think that we all came to that agreement. If we were forced to do that, we came to a common ground. The common ground was that there was going to be a fence, 10-foot fence or a 7-foot fence. I don't know what the ordinance calls for. Greenery, a burn, to address size. I would invite you people to go there and look at the playground these kids have. Bunch of pallets, trailers out there. The fumes of just the emission of the diesel is hazardous to those children. And the fight that I take it personally is that they might be my children, but I consider them my children, is that we live in America. And this is not allowed anywhere in the United States but Laredo. It's time that we stand up and do the right thing. It may cost us money, but guess what? What's the value of one child, one elderly retired person gasping for air? It's time that we stand up and do the right thing, people. We saw about the waterworks. We got problems in our city, but fighting amongst ourselves ain't going to be the answer. It's time to say we agree with you, we stand up for the injustice that others people did. At the time, it might have been the right thing. But today, it's not the right thing. We need to stand together and fight together. Because it's us today, tomorrow will be South Laredo, tomorrow will be... We need to put some type of provision to protect us from that. It's not about the money, it's about the quality of life that we want to promote in Laredo, Texas. That's all I can say, gentlemen.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mr. Castro from the commission? Thank you. I will ask the engineer, Mr. Daniel Gomez, come forward, please.
Good evening, I'm Daniel Gomez.
Mr. Gomez, I know that Mr. Castro here mentioned some kind of that y'all met or something. Did y'all come to some kind of an agreement or something, or?
There were a couple of meetings, and the latest meeting I wasn't there, but Mr. Richard Gomez, he was there, he was present.
Okay, well, can you come up, Mr. Gomez?
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Gomez. I represent Utility Trailer Sales. And we met a couple of times, and we were all in agreement. We're going to build a block fence towards the school. And then on the other remaining sides, we plan to do some kind of
a berm?
Berm, and then put some landscaping on top. Just to let you know, we're a company that sell empty trailers. We don't handle any hazmat materials whatsoever. We're a dealership, and all we do is sell empty trailers that does not have any hazmat materials inside.
Okay. So that's what y'all agreed to?
Yeah, we agreed to that.
Okay.
And
let me ask you something before, I know what the ordinance calls for. The block fence that you're proposing by the school, how high would that be?
we can make it as high as the city wants us to make it.
Well, I think the ordinance calls for 7 foot. That's what the ordinance calls for.
Correctly, yes.
Okay, but, I just don't know what the topography is there. I think it's kind of flat.
Yep.
So.
We can make it as high as 10 feet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Because what we want to
If
do
it's
is.
10 feet, it needs to be engineered.
It has to be engineered.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
We're going to add it.
Okay.
That was part of the plans also to add it into the engineering part.
Okay. Well, being that that's something that you all agreed to, can we make those general notes on the plat? So that, we have them on the plat as we approve the plat.
If those of the commission, this item is being brought forward just as a plating issue, not for zoning or anything like that, but
Well, but there are general notes on this plat anyway.
Those can be added on.
Yes. Yeah, I think that would, pretty much very clearly spell out, Mr. Gomez here has come forward and Mr. Castro, and this is what they came up with as the, recommendation. I would prefer that they be plat notes on here so that if none of us are here, none of you guys are here, there's always a fallback to where there is something in writing that kind of describes what is going to take place in this particular tract.
Definitely. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I know Joe, you had a question?
No, that was it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry?
No, one quick comment, but not to
Okay.
you all, just.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Costa's
Thank you.
concerns, I think that pursuing restricting its utilization about the hazardous materials, I think that would be a wise thing to push for. And then ultimately, really, it comes down to the city, whether they want to just buy it or UISD wants to buy it, if really they want to halt it all. But I think this sounds like a great compromise myself.
Good compromise.
And then pursue that ordinance change.
Yeah, can I speak to that?
Yes, sir.
I was in that, drafting an ordinance sometimes takes time. We got to check in with legal and we got to look at best practices. And so we're doing that. And what we're looking at is to restrict hazmat, the storage of hazmat material within a certain distance of schools
Right.
and
Yes.
other vulnerable locations. So that is something we're still looking at. We
Okay.
just want to make sure we do it the right way.
Well, there's,
But-
yeah.
But the reason we don't feel like we have to rush on it is because our understanding is of this property, it's not going to be the storage of hazmat materials here.
Is it this
It's not
year?
going to be
and
George, or excuse me, Commissioner?
No, I'm saying though, what everybody always worries about is what happens 2 or 3, 5 years down the road.
True.
That's why.
But it's not so important that we get the ordinance passed immediately because the intended use here is not to transmit or to store.
No, we know that, and I think what Mr. Castro's here concern was just, he's talking about in general. That's what he's talking about. Or in the future, whatever. But yeah, there is, at your discretion.
Chairman, I have a question for fire.
Years ago, like you mentioned,
Commissioner, if you, I believe you closed the public hearing, isn't that correct?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
I have a question for fire.
Mr. Castro, yeah, we're pretty much done. We have a question from Commissioner for Fire.
Fire, yes. What are the rules when you store hazmat materials? Like, what do they have to get some kind of permitting or?
Yeah, the fire code, the way it works, what it has what's considered maximum allowable quantities. And depending on what you're using, whether it be corrosives, flammables, explosives, it'll take into account the type of hazard and then the quantity of it. And then from there, it's going to tell you if you have X amount of 1.1 explosives, 20 pounds, you have to have, it'll give you, let's say, 100 feet from any inhabitable building, from a property line, and from a public way. So then when we look at that, if you don't have the separation distances that the code's requiring, you're not allowed to operate that occupancy. If you don't have the distance, the safety net that it's asking for, we don't approve it.
But is a school considered an inhabitable building? Because it's not a
Yes,
residence.
no, yeah, definitely. It even considers inhabitable buildings on their own property. So in other words, they put their little, like a little, I guess, a magazine for explosives. And if it's asking for 2,000 feet from any public way, any road, any inhabitable building, or any property line, like I said, if they don't have those 2,000 feet, if it encroaches into the school, if it encroaches to a building on their property, then it doesn't get approved.
A habitable building is not a building you live in. It's a building, it's a building where.
Yeah, basically a building that
the public has access to.
You can
it could be an office building,
Yeah.
it could be
Warehouse.
a warehouse. I mean,
And in this case, if I might add, like, because it's dealing with commercial vehicles, they'll also fall under the US DOT regulations. So if there is ever a concern with the public, they can also make a report to the Texas Department of Transportation or the US DOT, and they will do an inquiry on the company itself. And there are hefty fines and those type of violations too. So there are other legal standards that protect the community if there are hazard materials. They're not going to just be able to pull up into that property because once they acquire those hazard materials, they're regulated by the US DOT federal laws. So
and like he mentioned, there's multiple safety nets throughout the city. And right now they're gonna put a, like a trailer cargo storage. Let's say 2-3 years from now, they say, well, you know what, we wanna store flammable combustible liquids. When the business changes, they're supposed to come to the city of Laredo and start a new business process. Part of that process is gonna ask them what the operation on the premise is. What are you storing out there? Well, then they start to, we're gonna start storing flammable combustible liquids. Okay, well, how much of it are you gonna store? And then once they start telling us, we have to make sure, I mean, if they put, let's say they put a tank out there, does the tank have to be diked? Does it have to be double walled? Does it have separation from the property line? There's a lot of safety measures that are built into the International Fire Code to keep whatever that they're doing a safe distance and properly protected from the surrounding buildings. So there are multiple safety nets.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, can we have a motion?
Let me make a comment.
Yes, sir.
For just the last one, Mr. Chairman. I personally don't agree with the comment being noted in the plat, and I'll tell you why. I have great sympathy for Mr. Castro, but this gentleman, the developer, is already complying with M1, and I don't think it's in our jurisdiction to condition the approval. See, the approval is coming to us without any notice to the developer. I feel that we should, if we're going to approve it, we should approve it the way it is brought to us, rather than create a condition for the developer. That's my personal opinion. If we're going to approve it, I think we should approve it the way it was brought to us and the way it was published and it was given to the public. I know that you were very gentle to allow Mr. Castro, but this was not a public meeting. I mean, it was not a public.
Well, anybody can sign up to speak.
No,
on an item.
and you're good. I mean, it's fair. But I feel that that I would make a motion to approve as brought to us, and if they had an agreement, a gentleman agreement, I'm sure the developer will abide by it, but that's my position.
Okay. So that's your motion?
I'll second that. That's a motion.
Yes, sir. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Let me show hands. Let me show hands on approval. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion carries. All right. The next item we have is consideration of the model subdivision rule compliance for the plat of Phoenix Village, Phase 6. The intent is residential. This is a 10-acre tract. It is located north of State Highway 359 and east of Kansas City Railroad Yard. The zoning for this 33-lot development is R1MH. This tract is located in District 2. The proposed action is approval.
Chairman, if I may?
Yes?
Move that we approve item 10A.
Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Director's report?
No, he likes to talk.
Yes, just want to say thanks again for your service. Also, I'd like to, though, back up just a second and talk about conditions for approval. I think now's a good opportunity. I think y'all will split on that. When something's brought forward and they're in compliance with the rules, adding additional conditions is not something that the commission has authority to do. Our rules are written in some places for you to allow conditions, for it to be based on conditions. And then others, when they're complying with the rules, they're able to move forward in the process and be approved. So I think you brought up a good point that we shouldn't be applying conditions that an applicant did not agree to and that were not backed up by the rules. However, would it have hurt in this situation? No, I don't think it would have, because the applicant agreed to this condition and it was voluntary. Anytime an applicant voluntarily agrees to apply conditions, so for instance, you would not have been able to require him to build that fence. You wouldn't have, because it's not in our rules for you to do that. However, you could have asked him. You could have said, in this case it was already asked, but let's say there wasn't somebody that there wasn't an agreement, and you said, I think there might be a concern. Would you be willing, could we put in a condition, and if the applicant wanted to, they could say yes, and so then you could approve it with that condition that they, that they add a note to the plat that it's required to do that. They can agree to do that. Could not have required them to do that. Yes.
I think respectfully, we all know, and Mr. Villarreal is very experienced in this area. We as a board, at least the time that I've been here, we know what we can or can't do, but we find it more proper, instead of just rejecting something, giving somebody the opportunity to amend it without having to, we know it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down situation, but rather than be coarse and make them come back later, we give them the opportunity in a gentle, more sociable way, saying, would you consider amending certain things, hinting at them that if you don't, well, then maybe we're just going to deny it. And so that is usually the course of action, to be more genteel to the people that come before this, because they may not be experienced or savvy enough to know where the votes are going to fall. But we do understand that we can, and this commission has usually taken a harsher stance on engineers as compared to normal lay folk who come trying to make amendments, and let them change it around, because we're probably going to deny it if they don't do it. And so I understand what you're saying to us, and I think we all understand that. But this was one item that I think there was a general disagreement amongst the commission, because of the sensitivity, and some of us agreeing wholeheartedly with that there shouldn't be anything next to that school. But as a course of action, yes, you're right. We know we can thumbs up or thumbs down, but we generally let them do it so that they don't have to go through the whole point of being thumbs down.
Understood. Hopefully, there are some members of the commission that are more experienced than others, and maybe that was helpful for a few members to point that out. The challenge here was probably the zoning and not the plat approval process that has clearly defined rules. Where there is discretion would be in the zoning process of saying, should this belong there? Once that decision's made, and whenever it was made for the zoning for industrial to be right next to a school, once that's made, as long as they comply with the requirements of the zone, they are able to move forward in the planning process to build. So you probably already understood that. I just felt it was important to reiterate that there are some things that the Planning Commission does, very few, that are discretionary when you're sending a recommendation to council. But when you're acting as a body of approval, you're reading the rules and you're saying, do they comply or do they not comply with the rules? And I think it's helpful to restate that just so that everybody understands. And that was my intent with restating it now, is just to clarify.
Yeah, and we appreciate you stating that, but this, when the gentleman did agree voluntarily to some other things, because this was an item that was hotly contested before this commission, okay? All we're trying to do is not deny it, see if we can make things work for everybody, and, by reducing things to writing is always a good thing, That the minimal approval for the plat was on, yes, it was. But some things, if the other party's in agreement to it, just makes it a lot easier for the future.
Yeah.
I mean, we understand, at least I do, and at least I think most of the commissioners understand what you can and cannot do in terms of, for example, if there was no representation here, you just cannot slap something that is not in the ordinance on this thing. I agree with that. This was just more like, there was an agreement between parties and stuff. But I thank you for pointing that out to all of us, but I think we're familiar with it. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second? Aye.
You know you own that motion.